Well, happy Friday. We've made it through the week. Um, so I'm closing this week out with a basic premise. It's similar to a free writing exercising. We're going to be doing a mapping exercise. So I'll have some examples as we go along. I just need to set some parameters before I throw the assignment at you. So first off, inside the Friday folder, you notice we have a word of the day, and this is pariah. This is an important word, one that you should see and recognize more often now that I've pointed it out to you. Basically, a pariah is an outcast from society. A lot of material we'll be covering will deal with instances where you have a person witnessing a crime or witnessing an exclusion from society. You've heard of the conflict of you've heard of the conflict of human versus society. That's what results in a pariah. Someone's kicked out of the community. They no longer can participate or be defined as a part of the culture that produced them. Sometimes we self-exclude ourselves from society. So you'll have instances of that in the writings. But this will pop up as we go along. So do look for it, identify it correctly, and use it in your papers when we develop the stronger essays and assignments. So officially, a pariah is an outcast from society. I like this definition that I found. It's an unperson, someone who's not a person, an unperson. The character's been taking away his or her privilege of being a person. It's someone who's despised, basically, is what it comes down to. I found an interesting quote how this person was writing into his rabbi about how he felt like he was isolated and alone. He had become a pariah with no home, no family, no community. And that's a very bleak and pessimistic and depressing level to be brought towards as an individual. And even the rabbi himself said, what do you say when someone shares such self-loathing? I mean, how can you help that type of person? Bring him up from that status that he feels that he's been kicked out of society. Okay, so keep this in mind. I'm going to segue into the next portion of the class. So this is someone who's been kicked out of society. The next item we're going to define as self-portrait now. You all know what a self-portrait is. So this is the official definition. In the arts, it's a reproduction of the self, and it is a common technique. Oftentimes artists use these types of this genre when they don't have a model available, or they're trying to do a free write mentality but on the canvas. They're experimenting with techniques on the canvas and use themselves as a subject. So as the definition goes here, within the medium of painting alone, three top artists that come to mind are Vincent van Gogh, Frida Kahlo, and Rembrandt. These three artists created elaborate reinventions of themselves on canvas, exaggerating their characteristics and personalities, all in order to enhance and further develop their skills as painters. And then you get into a lot of argument about theme, about private impressions versus the public impressions, or the private self versus the public self, which we talked about earlier in the week. Okay. Likewise, the techniques used to produce these type of paintings, some artists like to have an intense photographic realism, whereas others will use more expressionistic more childlike coloring techniques. Okay? And there are written self-portraits. Okay, so we'll develop into that last bullet point later on in the course. I have put out here some examples of what I really like in the art world. Chuck Close, he started out doing extreme photorealism. That's an actual painting, not a photograph. Black and white painting. And over here is his more expressionistic later years. He suffered a stroke, and so to control the brush became a chore or a challenge, and he had to develop this more intense coloring, more like pixel approach. And I like this particular female portrait. The facial expression is very depressed. She looks alienated, shoved off the outskirts of society. And I love the coloring choice as well. And here's Picasso. He's made himself extremely angular and abstract off of his true impression. He even changed his two tones of his eyes, his pupils. So, and this showing you where he's taking his style at this time point in the 20s or 30s when he developed this. Here is a Rembrandt. I got two of them out here, but I'm opening the one where he's younger and he's more positive, if you noticed. And very subtly, you might pick up on the fact he's got an earring. But I love as realistic as it is, if you look closely, he's experimenting with how light is represented on the canvas. These are just brush strokes on top of a dark smear of color. Okay. And likewise, I got Vanessa Bell out here. In her younger years, she did this painting. Very subtle earth-like tones, I call it. Maybe more pastel. And I love this. The fabric is very well executed. And she's not using realistic skin tones here. You know, the purples as the shadows. The bluish purple red tones. And finally, of course, we've got Van Gogh. And this is probably my favorite one of his. The blue spirals all over the place. Showing you his internal emotional reactions to himself. He is all reds, whereas the background is all blue. So these are some basic concepts of self-portraits. Easily seen, easily identified. You get the gist. Okay? So now we're going to be doing a mapping exercise. And in order to do a mapping exercise, I've put out here some past student examples. And typically with a student, I'll just give a prompt and just say, like, the writing process. What is your first reaction to it? Map out your feelings. So in this case, the student divided the page into pros and cons, made these thought bubble circles. And all the pros are the positive feelings she got from the concept of writing, and all the negative are down below. Like down here, need lots of resources, bad vocabulary, I hate doing it, okay, frustrating. So these are all the negative energies she picked up from the writing process, whereas up here, when you include all parts of the essay, it helps in the future with your writing process. You need it in all the subjects you take because you're going to do endless writing in college. It helps you get a better job. It can be fun if you apply some sense of adventure to the whole concept. So this is her take on it. You can get the other three here if you like to see how they took it. Some people I've noticed developed a graffiti style all over the place. So there's some nice artistic expressions you can get when you're doing a mapping or grouping type mentality. Okay, so now you are going to be doing the same concept, but you're going to be doing it on what's called a Google Jamboard. I've created it for you. There's about 20 pages in this document, and I'll show you the link in just a second. But you're going to be reacting to a painting that I'll post, and you're going to divide your page into three. The first one, you can use whatever colors you want. I just chose to make them yellow. You're labeling it first reactions, second analysis, possible meanings. So you divide it into thirds. Your first reaction, your second reaction, possible meanings of the painting. And with the Jamboard, there's a lot of extra tools that come with it, and I want you to play with it because we'll be using the Jamboards in the near future for other projects as well. So this center circle is the title of the painting with the artist, Frida Kahlo dos Fridas. Okay, and these are the three basic reactions that can result. I like this. It's like ugh, and it's emphasized with the squiggle. And you draw a line over here, you get an exclamation point. This feeling brought out these themes on the far right hand side. Okay. Wish I had a poster print of this. Really, I do, because I created this for you, so that's me talking. I really do want a copy of that poster. Frida on the left has an exposed heart that is wounded, ill. Okay, I'll show you the painting in just a second because that's what you'll be doing your process. Okay, so after viewing this, if you definitely have any questions, drop me a line. I'll walk you through it. But this is what it should look like. That's the end result. So, under the Friday exercise, it's called mapping. When you open it up, right here it says link to class Jamboard. After you look at the painting, you'll click that link, you'll follow through. The rubric's down below, and again, it's the basic, you do it right or you don't do it. Okay? So their word choice again is important. In this case, this category, MLA presentation, don't worry about it because obviously we're not going to have an MLA document. So you're going to get an automatic 5 for that. Don't worry about MLA presentation. The word count is important. You need to be covering up the page as much as possible. Use as many stickies as possible. So roughly between a 10 and 15 minute time span, you should be able to fill out that whole Jamboard with all your impressions. An emphasis is going to be placed on development of the idea of course. So number 1 and number 4 are the two important ones. Word choice, development of the idea. How you take this assignment, how you take the prompt, where you go with it. Okay? So reading the prompt itself explicitly. There really is no one way to create a mapping. Whatever you term the pre-writing technique, using this method helps outline the various components a writer may want to include in a full essay or simply within a single paragraph. You're in control. The objectives here: 1, isolate the various observations you have for the provided self-portrait without conducting outside research. Now, this is the main point I want to emphasize. Do not go out and read information about Frida Kahlo. I just want your impressions off the top of your head the instant you look at this picture. So A, what is your immediate reaction? B, what moods does the painting produce? There's a wide range of reactions. C, what messages is the artist communicating to the world audience? What is the main message? Okay? I'm checking this really quick. So you're doing this for about 15 minutes. You're building bridges with your words. I will be looking for creative phrasing and fragmented logic again, just like the last exercise. Okay? Quantity over quality. Scattered words. So once you click on this link, this is what you're going to see. It will save your pages automatically. So there are 20 pages out here. Just claim an empty page. Okay? And you go over here to your toolbar. You create a text box. You can throw an image on if you want. You can use squiggle marks. Just play with the tools and litter the page with your ideas. You're dividing it into thirds. Let me go back over here. Reactions, analysis, interpretation is what you're basically doing. Your first reaction when you look at the painting, looking at it closer and deciding what this is saying about yourself, about your views, your observations. And then you interpret. What is the artist trying to tell us? Okay? So rather quickly, the painting's all over in the net. This is the painting I will be posting. Okay? That one. This is the one I want a copy of. So Frida Kahlo, she painted herself twice. Once on the left, once on the right. You decide what the theme is. You decide the mood. You decide the motive behind this painting. Okay? Okay, that's it for today. So, as I said before, be safe. See you next week. And if you have any questions, just drop me a line. Later.